We're joined by energy analyst, Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Professor, a pleasure to have you on the show. Let's get right into it. Now we've seen the visit by the President to the Tutuka power station in Mpumalanga. Take us through your view on the visits, particularly to this power station in light of the crisis that we're finding ourselves in.
Good evening to you and the viewers. I think it's a good thing that the president had to go to Tutuka power station and see for himself in terms of what's happening on the ground. That power station has been one of the problematic ones when it comes to things such as your partial load losses. Basically, it has not been performing quite well. As you have heard him say, talking about bringing some units there live so that the power station can perform the way it should. That power station should be giving us above 3,500 megawatts. I think it's sitting at about 3,610 megawatts, and it has not been doing quite well. But the biggest issue here is the generation capacity that Eskom needs. Eskom has been saying we need between 4,000 and 6,000 megawatts. And the government has put in place various measures to try and secure that new generation capacity. Most of those measures are long-term measures. We will start seeing the fruits of that in the next 2 to 3 years when most of the new build capacity will be coming live. What is worrying for me is what is government doing in terms of the plan and an immediate plan to try and resolve the situation right now, because the country is in the dark at the moment. We need a short-term kind of plan. The president talked about a crisis, some crisis committee. He didn't give much details in terms of what are the terms of reference of this crisis committee, what is it looking at, and how can South Africans in general contribute towards the work that the crisis committee is doing, because this problem is no longer a government problem, it's a South African problem, and South Africans who've got the capacity to assist should be afforded the opportunity to assist where they can.
Now, so I'm glad you mentioned the short-term, the long-term benefits of what's currently underway. But now let's talk about short-term. What do you think is the best possible action to be taken in order to address this in the short term?
So there's quite a number of options. The one of them is back then in 2010, 2011, why we didn't have load shedding, extensive load shedding around 2014, 2015, was partly because Eskom embarked on an energy efficiency program on demand side management. Ghana has gone through a similar kind of a crisis that we're going through, and they managed to go through demand side management and energy efficiency as well. That eased the pressure on the grid. So Eskom, for instance, they went on a rollout of changing the traditional incandescent bulbs to new fluorescent bulbs. And through that program only, they could save more than 2,000 megawatts. And that's an equivalent of a power station. And there's quite a number of other initiatives, demand-side management initiatives that they were involved in. There was a lot of money put into that. Eskom working with universities on what we call measurement and verification programs, with the involvement of energy services companies that were implementing energy efficient technologies at industry. Some mines benefited from that, and society benefited in general. Eskom also piloted things such as the use of heat pumps through the rebate system. In our homes, we spend most of our electricity on heating up water, and water that we don't need in most cases, because your geyser is on throughout the day, and it's got an element of 2 kilowatt to 3 kilowatt. So if we remove about 1 million geysers offline and replace them with heat pumps, we save up to 60% of that. And that can go up to about 2,000 to 3,000 megawatts.
Yes.
There's quite a number of other initiatives, such as you're bringing in your solar water heaters using the rebate system, where government doesn't have to buy these systems and go and install. They need to just ensure that there's a facility where people can buy and then have them installed, and then they can then go and claim back the money like they were doing with the heat pump systems, where we were claiming up to 60% of the money that you spend on the system. Gas, water heaters and gas stoves, geyser control systems that are cheap, which Eskom can implement if government makes some money available.
Yes.
In my view, they should set aside about 50 billion rand and go through a number of programs that can save us up to 4,000 megawatts that Eskom needs urgently, as opposed to waiting for this long-term initiative.
So thank you, Professor. Just very briefly, in the interest of time, now there was a mention from the President at the SACP conference of a similar state-owned entity, similar to Eskom, to deal with the power crisis and the economy. A very brief take on this.
I don't think we should even be discussing something like that at this point in time. Eskom has got a strategy to break up Eskom into 3 entities. So that's a 4th one that we're hearing about. And they haven't even completed breaking up Eskom into the 3 entities. They promised that by 2022, transmission will be independent of Eskom, and it will introduce competition. The same thing that Minister Mantashe has proposed now in terms of bringing in competition. Competition is already there through the REAP program. The IPPs are already competing. All that needs to happen is for transmission to quickly break away and then introduce that particular competition that they need. The new entity is not going to operate now. We don't even have a budget for it. We don't even have a feasibility study for it. We don't know when it's going to start. If it starts, it's going to be very, very late. By the time it comes live, we'll be having enough electricity.